Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. The Institute for Peace in Washington, D.C. was gutted by the Donald J. Trump administration. But now it's reemerging. They want to call it the Donald J. Trump Institute for Peace. That's what the front of the building now says. It's astounding. We have never had, in the history of our country, such actions by a president of the United States, whether it is renaming the Institute for Peace after himself, whether it is deciding to issue a coin with his image on it. No matter where you turn, no matter where you look, the narcissism being exemplified by Donald Trump and this administration is astounding. I say this with deep regret because the United States of America is more than an individual, and no president of the United States should have the power to do what Donald Trump is doing. It is the aggrandizement of an individual. It is the cult of personality. His image has been displayed on buildings in Washington, something never before allowed or conceived of by people in Washington, D.C. This is a president out of control. There is no question about it. And the idea that he is able to do these things with no check, no balance, is profoundly disturbing. Yesterday, Donald Trump did something else. He again repeated the lie, and it is a lie, that the election of 2020 was stolen, that he in fact won the election, and that the election of 2020, well, it was Biden's fault. Biden and the Democrats, they stole the election. And the president continues to repeat what is clearly untrue. And then, of course, there are the attacks on Biden and his family that continue to emanate from the White House. There is something fundamentally wrong, but that's not all. Yesterday, I spoke about the situation with the Somalis in Minnesota. And I talked about the fact that what Donald Trump was doing was branding a whole people in such a dastardly fashion. Well, he continues to do it. And now he's sending troops to Minnesota to go after the Somalis. Whether they are citizens or not, it appears, he is determined to remove what he terms garbage from America. Since when do we accept, without any hesitation or doubt, a president of the United States classifying a whole people as garbage? We've never had this before. The situation that is evolving is one that is profoundly disturbing. And the fact that the Republicans in the House of Representatives are silent. Well, there is a war going on among Republicans now, as you may have heard. Elise Stefanik, the number 3 Republican in the House of Representatives for a time, now a candidate for governor of New York, issued a scathing attack on Speaker Johnson. And of course, in my judgment, a well-deserved attack. Do you understand that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, at the behest of the President of the United States, kept one of the branches of Congress out of session for more than a month? Do you understand, again, what I'm trying to convey and what should be shouted from the rooftops of America? Donald Trump is anti-democratic. Do you understand? And when I say anti-democratic, I'm not talking about a party. I'm talking about a country. This is a man who would rather see one man rule something we object to in this country. I said the other day that Donald Trump, in a Truth Social posting, suggested that the Republican Party, a venerable party, a party with deep history going back to the 1850s, a party that has given us, well, frankly, some remarkable individuals as president, and certainly a remarkable legacy in this country, that it be renamed. And what does he want to rename it? After himself, Trumplicans. And now that's not from John Rothman, that's from Donald Trump. No, there is something seriously amiss. And we need to understand that there is something wrong. And the question is, how do you correct what we are now witnessing? And the answer is, the only way to correct it is for the Republican Party to correct the situation. Now, no one is talking about the Epstein matter, but the clock is ticking. And soon, all of the materials currently being held back are supposed to be released. What is the Trump administration doing? Very interesting. They are opening up a new case investigating the connection of Joe Biden and the Democrats with the Epstein matter. And as a result of the fact that the Epstein matter is under investigation, it would appear that the Justice Department may say, well, there's pending litigation. We can't release the information. This is clearly a deception. But now I want to deal with the thing that also bothers me, and that has to do with Pete Hegseth. There are now two major investigations, one about what happened on those boats, and the other, of course, what happened when he used the wrong messaging to let people know, including his own family, about the timing of an attack. There is something wrong with Pete Hegseth. And the fact that he's the Secretary of Defense, and I want to repeat that a president does not have the power to rename the Defense Department the War Department. There is something wrong. And where does it all really lead? Why is there an absence by some of in-depth coverage of what is going on in the Defense Department? Because a rule was imposed that if you wanted to have Prince credentials to cover the Defense Department, you had to abide by the rules of coverage being established by the Department of Defense. And that means that there are major news agencies who refuse to comply with this bullying tactic and who are now covering what is going on in the Defense Department from outside. Indeed, you will note that a major network like CBS is doing its reporting from the White House because it has no access to the inner workings of the Defense Department. There is here another key affront to American democracy. And that, my friends, as all of you know, has to do with freedom of the press. Thank God we have a press in this country that is free to cover from the inside and the outside what is going on. But in the case of the Defense Department, because of the rules established by Pete Hegseth and indeed by the Trump administration, there are limitations on coverage. And may I say the same thing exists in the White House in a modified way, because now the White House reserves the right to decide who will have access to the press rooms at the White House. There is a censorship here that, well, is completely un-American. If any other administration had tried to impose these kinds of restrictions, Democrat or Republican, there would have been an outcry from all sides. And that, my friends, is what I want to address today. The fact that there is not an outcry. The fact that there is a passivity that has crept into the acceptance of whatever Donald Trump says, whatever rules his administration lays down. It is just beyond my comprehension that we have sunk to this disastrous level as we pursue American democracy at its best. These issues, which I am raising now, go back to Donald Trump's total disregard for American democracy. I had a long discussion with a friend about January 6th and the insurrection, and that's what it was. It wasn't a riot, it was an insurrection. Who said to me, "John, that's ancient history. Why do you even care about it?" And my answer is, it's not ancient history. It is something that happened that Donald Trump is still defending. Remember, he gave complete and absolute pardons to some of those who attacked the Capitol. Most of those who attacked the Capitol. Can you imagine a president of the United States with such a disregard for law? And he gets away with it because of the silence of the Republicans, because there can be no congressional investigation, there can be no movement unless Donald Trump authorizes it. And let me remind you that Speaker Johnson is still working on establishing a new January 6th committee to rewrite history. Am I living in George Orwell's novel, 1984? Is truth a lie? Is red green? Is black white? Do you understand that this is profoundly disturbing? And it should be not just to me, but to all of you. And we should be crying from the rooftops about what is happening in the United States of America. I have not addressed today my concerns about foreign policy. The fact that Ukraine continues to blow up. The fact that the Middle East, where Donald Trump suggests there is now peace, is far from peaceful. Where the dangers that lurk continue to be a powerful force. And frankly, peace has not prevailed. There is something wrong as well. When you have the president's son-in-law and the president's personal representative negotiating major agreements and, in fact, are not succeeding. Oh, it's true, and I give Donald Trump full credit. The hostages were finally released. But that does not a Nobel Peace Prize or an effective foreign policy equal. Today, the admiral who is being made the scapegoat of Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth for the actions which took place on the sea will finally have a chance to testify. Now, it's true, he's testifying behind closed doors, but there is no doubt that he is going to give a vigorous defense of himself, because now he is the one on the hook. One cannot make this up. I reread a novel, 7 Days in May, which describes a dysfunctional government which survives only because of a belief by some in democracy, in co-equal branches of government. My appeal to you this morning is circulate these words. Let people know what's going on. Let people know that we have a racist in the White House. Yes, I am saying Donald Trump is a racist. When you identify a whole people as garbage, my friends, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and waddles like a duck, it's a duck. These are serious times. These are serious matters. I am raising these with you because of my deep and abiding concern for the future of our country. Our country's security, well, just take a look at what's happening on the streets in some cities of America, is a rejection of our safety. If it can happen to them, it can happen to us. You tell me, am I exaggerating? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill? I don't think so. And I want your feedback. I do want to know what you think. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. You can write me a review on Apple Podcasts, drop a comment on YouTube or Spotify, click any of the links in the show notes to connect with me on social media. The most important thing is I want you to share this episode with a friend or colleague so they can hear what we have to say and so this program can continue to grow. Oh, I'll be back. You bet I will. And I'll be watching today what happens. And so will you. This show has been getting so much positive attention. And by the way, I appreciate all the positive feedback that we are now including advertising support, as you know, at the beginning and at the end of the podcast. We believe this will help us create more opportunities for Around the Political World with John Rothman. And that's what we want to do. Spread the word. Let people know. I am doing my best, and with your support, we will have an even greater impact. You are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman, and remember, without Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this program, well, I'd be talking to myself. So Gogo, thank you so much. And to all of you, I will be back tomorrow, and I can't wait. The news is breaking each and every moment, and, well, that's what we're here for. See you tomorrow for another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Thanks so much.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.